Every single year, I make the 4-hour journey to my childhood home for Thanksgiving, and every year I bring the fancy pecan pie, the expensive autumnal bouquet, and a tiny, foolish flicker of hope that this time they might actually see me. My name is Amelia. I'm 35. And for every one of those years, I've been the quiet, unremarkable shadow to my sister Olivia's dazzling, dramatic life. I stepped through my parents' front door, and the first thing that hit me was the museum. A museum dedicated to Olivia. Photos from her extravagant wedding were everywhere, lining the walls, plastered on the fridge, and gleaming in chunky gold frames on the fireplace mantel. There were no pictures of me. There were 0 photos from my wedding. I knew right then, before a single slice of turkey was served, this would be the Last Supper. We all took our seats. Olivia lifted her wine glass, a massive diamond on her finger catching the light. She shot me a smirk from across the table. "Still flying solo, Amelia?" she asked, her voice pitched just loud enough for the whole room. 35, huh? That's got to be rough." The table fell silent. My mother suddenly found her napkin intensely interesting. My father stared at his empty plate. Not a single person came to my defense. They never do. I placed my fork down, my hand completely still. I looked her dead in the eye. "I wouldn't spend your time worrying about me, Olivia," I said, my voice low but crystal clear. "I'm married, but before we get into that, do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from." The silence that blanketed the room after I said, "I'm married," felt new. But the reason behind it was ancient. It was the oldest thing in that house. I am Amelia Pierce, and in my family, I'm the empty space. I'm the quiet one. I'm the one who's always fine. I grew up in the exact same house as Olivia. We ate the same meals. We used the same upstairs bathroom. But our worlds might as well have been on different planets. My world was silent. I learned early on to be good, to be easy. I learned to be invisible. Olivia's world was a spectacle. It was loud, it was bright, and it was entirely filled with whatever she needed at that moment. In the Pierce household, perfection was the standard, but that standard was applied very differently to the two of us. For Olivia, perfection was something everyone else was responsible for creating around her. If she shed a tear, the entire house ground to a halt. My mother, Eleanor, would come running. My father, Richard, would get that worried look on his face. "What's wrong with Liv?" he'd ask. "What does she need?" If I cried, I was told to use my words and stop the melodrama. So I learned to stop crying. I learned to stop being dramatic. I learned to stop needing things. I'll never forget when I was 10. I won the statewide youth art competition. I had practiced for months, mastering a difficult cross-hatching technique. I came home clutching a heavy gold medal. I burst through the door. "Mom, Dad, I won." My mother was on the phone, and she immediately put a finger to her lips. "Shh, Amelia, I'm on an important call." My father was buried in the newspaper. "That's great, sweetheart," he mumbled, his eyes never leaving the page. I waited for a moment. I set the medal on the kitchen counter. Later that night, Olivia, who was 7, found it. She was in her finger painting phase. She grabbed my medal and used it to smear a puddle of green paint across her paper. I just stood there and watched her do it. I watched the shiny gold surface get caked in thick, green goo. I said, "That's mine." Olivia just shrugged her shoulders. "It's all messy now." I looked to my mother for help. My mother just sighed. "Oh, Amelia, it's just a medal. Let your sister play with it." 3 weeks later, Olivia was in her 2nd grade school play. She was a tree. Her only job was to stand still for 5 minutes with 6 other kids. My parents both took the afternoon off work. They brought the video camera. They must have taken 50 pictures. They had one of them framed. It's still hanging in the upstairs hallway. Olivia as a blurry, slightly out-of-focus tree. My gold medal was thrown in the trash. That was the rhythm of my life. That was the established pattern. My accomplishments were nice. Olivia's mere existence was an event worthy of a parade. I morphed into the steady one, the reliable one, the one who never caused any trouble. Because I knew, on a cellular level, that if I ever did get into real trouble, no one would be there to rescue me. They were all far too occupied rescuing Olivia. In high school, it got so much worse. Olivia was beautiful, popular, the lead in every school play, and she always had a crisis, a fight with her best friend, a C- on a pop quiz, a new crush who didn't text her back fast enough. Our entire home orbited these dramas. My mother and Olivia would have hushed serious conferences in the kitchen for hours. My father would pace the living room, twisting his hands, asking, "Is there anything I can do for her?" And I'd be in the next room, at the dining table, quietly doing my homework. I was getting a perfect 4.0 GPA. I was the president of the architecture club. I was winning academic awards, but nobody ever asked me how my day was. I convinced myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was independent, that I was the mature one. I didn't need all that drama. I was the sensible daughter. But sensible is just a prettier word for lonely. Sensible means you're the one we can afford to ignore because she'll always be fine. But I wasn't fine. I was starving. I was starving for a single person to look at me, just for a second. For someone to ask me a question and actually care about the answer. But all the attention, all the oxygen in that house was hoovered up by my sister. My father, Richard, was a quiet man. I used to think he was like me, that he understood, but he wasn't quiet, he was just weak. He took all his cues from my mother. And my mother, Eleanor, she thrived on the drama. She loved being the mother of the star child. She loved having a daughter who was a perpetual emergency. I didn't need her like that. I didn't throw tantrums or fail classes or demand attention. And because of that, she had no idea how to be a mother to me. So I learned to make myself small. I learned to take up less and less space. I shrunk my needs down until they were so tiny I could cup them in the palm of my hand. And then I learned to just clench my fist and hide them completely. It was practice. My whole life was one long rehearsal for being forgotten. When I looked at my family, I felt like I was a ghost at my own life. I'd be sitting right there at the dinner table, and they'd talk right over me. Not around me, through me, as if I were made of glass. "Richard, you will not believe what happened to Liv today. Liv, tell your father about the audition." I'd try to chime in. I got an A on my physics final. My mother would give a vacant nod while her eyes were still fixed on Olivia. "That's wonderful, dear. Liv, do you think you need a new dress for the formal?" I would just vanish. My voice would fade into the wallpaper. I'd go back to silently eating my food. This was the family I was raised in. This was the house that built me. A house where perfection was the price of admission and attention was the only currency. And I was perpetually bankrupt. I was the reliable, invisible, expendable Amelia. I was the one who was fine. I was the one who sat at that Thanksgiving table year after year, watching my sister own the stage. But this year was different. This year, the ghost was about to start haunting. The absolute worst part of being the sensible one is that people assume you're made of stone. They think you don't get hurt. They think you don't need to be celebrated. My family didn't just ignore my small daily wins. They completely missed the monumental ones, too, the once-in-a-lifetime moments. My college graduation was the big one. I chose a university 4 hours away, not just because it had a great architecture program, which it did. I went because it was 4 hours away. I needed to breathe. I needed space. I needed to exist in a place where I wasn't just Olivia's quiet older sister. And I thrived in college. I was good at it. I found my people. I found my passion. For the very first time in my life, I felt seen. I graduated magna cum laude. With high honors, I was bursting with pride. I bought 2 extra tickets for the commencement ceremony. I saved them seats. I meticulously ironed my graduation gown. I called them the night before, my voice trembling with excitement. "I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow," I said. "I'm the 3rd person in my department to get my diploma." There was a beat of silence on the line, a long, awful, sinking silence. Then my mother's voice came on, that voice, the one she used right before delivering bad news, a soft, syrupy, "Oh, honey." My stomach instantly filled with ice. "Honey, about tomorrow," she said. "We have a bit of a situation here." A situation. That was always the code word for Olivia. Olivia is she's a total wreck, my mother explained. Her sorority is having its huge end-of-year gala, and her boyfriend, Kyle, well, they just had a massive fight, a massive one. She thinks he's going to break up with her. She's been sobbing all day. I just can't leave her side. I was standing in my empty dorm room. All my belongings were in boxes around me. I glanced at the 2 tickets sitting on my desk. "It's my graduation," I whispered. My voice sounded tiny like a child's. "I'm graduating with high honors." "I know, sweetie, I know, and we are so, so proud of you. We truly are. We're proud from a distance," she said, attempting a light-hearted laugh. "But Olivia just needs me. You know how she gets. She'll work herself into a state. You're the strong one, Amelia. You've always been so strong. You understand?" But I didn't understand. I wanted to scream. I wanted to yell, "What about me? When do I finally get to be the one who needs you? When is it ever my turn?" But I didn't. I just swallowed the rage. "What about Dad?" I asked. "Can he come?" Another pause. I heard her muffle the phone with her hand. I heard her whisper to him, "She wants to know if you can go." I heard my father's muffled reply, "Eleanor, I can't. You know Liv wants us both here for support." My mother came back on the line. He's staying here to support me while I support Olivia. It's a family crisis, honey. We're your family," I wanted to scream. I hung up the phone. "Okay," I said, "I understand." I sat down on one of my packed boxes, and I just cried. I cried for the 10-year-old girl with the paint-smeared medal. I cried for the teenager who got straight A's in an empty room, and I cried for the woman who was about to graduate at the top of her class, completely alone. The next day, I went to my graduation ceremony. I sat by myself. My friends were all surrounded by their families, taking photos, getting tearful hugs from their mothers. My name was called, Amelia Pierce, magna cum laude. I walked across that stage. I shook the dean's hand. The auditorium was packed with thousands of people. I clapped for myself, silently, because there was no one else there to do it. I drove myself back to my empty apartment and had a bowl of cereal for dinner. A week later, a card arrived in the mail. "So proud of our graduate," it read. Inside was a $25 gift card to a chain restaurant. It felt like a slap in the face, a cruel, pathetic joke, and that was the pattern. They missed my 30th birthday because Olivia had a sinus infection. "We don't want to spread germs," my mother had said. They missed the celebratory dinner when I got my first big promotion at an architecture firm. Olivia was house-sitting for a friend. We can't leave her all by herself, my father had said. When I bought my first condo in Portland, I was over the moon. I called them, so excited. I sent them a picture of the little sold sign. My mother's first words were, "Oh, Amelia, that's such a big responsibility. A mortgage is so much stress. Are you sure you can handle that all by yourself?" Not congratulations, not when can we come visit, not we're so proud of you. They never once asked to see pictures of the inside. They never came to see it. But when Olivia and her boyfriend rented a tiny, cramped apartment in their same town, my parents threw them a housewarming party and bought them a brand new sofa. My parents never saw my condo, but they saw Olivia's new sofa every single weekend. And yet, even after all of that, the missed graduation, the missed birthdays, the missed milestones, every Thanksgiving, I still made that 4-hour drive. I'd pack up my car. I'd buy the expensive pecan pie from the best bakery in Portland. I'd pick up a beautiful bouquet of flowers. I'd bring a nice bottle of wine. And I would drive. I would drive straight toward the pain. I would drive toward the house that refused to see me. Why? My friends in Portland couldn't understand it. "Why do you even go?" my friend Sarah would ask. "They treat you terribly." "They're my family," I'd always say. But it was more than that. It was that tiny, stupid hope. The hope that this year would be the year it changed. This year, I would walk through that door and they would finally see me. They would really, truly see me. This year, I brought the pie, I brought the flowers, and I brought a secret. I walked into that house. I saw the shrine to my sister, and I knew that stupid hope was finally dead. The drive to my parents' house is 4 hours. 4 hours of gray Portland sky slowly melting into the flat brown farmlands of eastern Oregon. This year, the knot in my stomach was tighter than usual. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Leo, my husband, had begged to come with me. "Let me come, Amy," he'd said. He was standing in our sunlit kitchen, his hands calloused from his workshop holding mine. "You don't have to face them alone." But I did. This was something I had to do by myself. "No," I told him. "I need to do this. Just this one last time." He didn't push. That's not his way. Leo is quiet like me. But his quiet is a presence, not an absence. He sees me. He actually listens. When I first told him about my family, he didn't say they were monsters. He just got this sad look in his eyes and said, "That must have been incredibly lonely." I met him 2 years ago. I was designing a website for his custom furniture business. We met for coffee, and we ended up talking for 3 hours. He asked me questions about my design process. He remembered the names of my projects. I fell in love with him because he listened. We got married 8 months ago, on a Tuesday afternoon on a windy, dramatic beach on the Oregon coast. It was small and it was perfect. Just us, Leo's parents, his sister, and 2 of my best friends. Leo's family is warm. They're loud, but in a good way. They laugh from their bellies. They hug you like they mean it. When we told them we were engaged, his mother burst into tears. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "A daughter," she said. "I finally get a daughter." I cried too. Of course, I invited my family to the wedding. It was 8 months ago. I remember every single detail. I splurged on the invitations. Thick, cream-colored cardstock with a beautiful minimalist font. I wrote a personal handwritten note on each one. To my parents, "Mom and Dad, I'm so happy. His name is Leo. I love him so much, and he loves me. Please come. It would mean the world to me." To Olivia, "Liv, I'm getting married. I know things have been distant between us, but it would mean so much to have my sister there." I mailed them. I paid extra for tracking. I didn't want them to have any excuse. I watched the little green progress bar on the website. Delivered. Signed for at front desk. They got them. I knew they got them. And then I waited. A week went by. Nothing. So I called my mother. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. Did you happen to get a package from me in the mail?" "Oh, hi, honey," she said, her voice sounding distracted. "I don't think so. The mail has been so unreliable lately." What was it? It was a lie. A casual, easy lie. I could hear it in her tone. "It was important," I said. "It was an invitation." "An invitation? How lovely. To what?" My heart just sank. "Could you just check the mail pile, Mom? Please." "I will, honey." "Listen, I have to go. Olivia's here. We're about to go wedding dress shopping, of course." Olivia had just gotten engaged herself, a huge public spectacle at a winery that my parents had helped plan. I hung up the phone. I sent a text to Olivia. "Hey, did you get my invitation?" The little blue check marks appeared. She read it. She never replied. I texted my father. "Dad, please check the mail. I sent something really important." He replied 2 days later. "Been swamped, Amy." "What's up?" No one called. Not one person RSVP'd. The wedding day arrived. I was getting my hair done, and I kept my phone on the table next to me, screen side up. I kept glancing at the door of the small beach house we'd rented. "Are you okay, sweetie?" Leo's mom asked. She was helping me with the buttons on the back of my dress. "I'm fine," I said, just hoping. Maybe they were flying in as a surprise. Maybe they were driving and just running late. The little ceremony began. I walked down the aisle of sand toward Leo. He was already crying. "You're here," he whispered, and he took my hand. I looked out at the small handful of chairs we'd set up. My 2 best friends, his family, and 3 empty seats. One for Mom, one for Dad, one for Olivia. They never showed. They never called. They never sent a text. They never sent a card. They never once acknowledged that I, Amelia Pierce, had gotten married. I was shattered. I cried that night in our hotel room, and Leo just held me. "They don't hate you, Amy," he said, his voice laced with an anger I'd never heard before. "They just don't deserve you." 2 months later, Olivia had her wedding. A massive 300-person affair that my parents paid for entirely. I saw the pictures all over social media. My mother beaming with pride, my father walking Olivia down the aisle, openly weeping. I was not invited. And now, here I was, walking into that same house for Thanksgiving. Leo had been right. I should have let him come. "I have to do this by myself," I had told him. "I just have to." "I understand," he'd said, and he kissed my forehead. "Call me the second it's over. I love you. I love you too," I'd whispered. I used my old key and let myself in. The smell was the same. Old books, cinnamon, and dusty potpourri. And then I saw it. It wasn't a home. It was a shrine. The living room. The mantelpiece over the fireplace was completely covered in big, glossy professional photographs, all in those heavy, gaudy gold frames. Olivia in her massive $10,000 wedding gown. Olivia and her new husband. Olivia with my mother, zipping up the dress. My mother crying with joy. Olivia and my father sharing their first dance. My father crying with pride. There had to be at least a dozen of them. I stood frozen in the entryway, still holding the pecan pie. I couldn't seem to get any air into my lungs. And it wasn't just the mantel. I walked numbly into the kitchen. The refrigerator was covered in new magnets, all holding up snapshots from Olivia's bridal shower, from her bachelorette party in Mexico. I set the pie down on the counter. My hands were trembling. I looked around, my eyes scanning every single surface. The hallway tables, the bookshelves. I was searching for any sign of myself, any proof that I existed. My graduation photo, a baby picture, anything. There was nothing, not a single photograph of me, no picture of me and Leo. It was as if I had never even been born. It was the Olivia Pierce show. And I finally, truly understood. Those empty chairs at my wedding weren't an accident. It wasn't that they forgot or that the mail was slow. It was a choice. They had actively erased me. They had erased my wedding, my marriage, my husband. They had erased my entire life, just so Olivia could have her perfect, uninterrupted year. I heard my mother's voice call out from the living room, "Is that you, Amelia? We're in here. Come and say hello." I stared at a photo on the fridge of Olivia playfully feeding her husband a piece of wedding cake. I felt a coldness, a deep, clear, and perfect cold. I took one steadying breath. I left the pie on the counter, and I walked into the living room. I stepped into the living room, and the scene was a perfect replica of every holiday for the last 20 years. My mother, Eleanor, was lounging on the sofa, scrolling on her phone with a glass of white wine sweating on the coaster beside her. "I put them in the kitchen," I said, my voice flat. I didn't say what. "Hey, Ames," my father grunted from his armchair, his eyes glued to the TV. "The game's a disaster." Olivia just sighed dramatically, annoyed that my arrival had interrupted her. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by a mountain of wedding gifts. She held up a toaster. Who even gives a toaster this cheap anymore? She tossed it into a pile she designated for returns. I just stood there in the doorway. "Did you hear me, Amelia?" my mother asked, her voice sharp with impatience. "The pies." "Kitchen?" "I put them on the counter," I repeated. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, too calm, so this was it. This was the family I had driven 4 hours to be with. The Amelia mask was supposed to click into place. The easy, helpful smile. The one that says, "I'm fine, I need nothing, how can I help you?" But it didn't come. I just stood there. "Well," my mother said, finally glancing up at me. "Don't just stand there like a statue. Come in. You're letting all the warm air out." I walked in. I sat down in the small, stiff armchair in the corner, the one nobody ever sat in, the one that was always my spot. I just watched them. My mother went back to her phone. My father went back to his football game. Olivia went back to sorting her gifts. Not a single person asked, "How was the drive, Amelia?" Not one person asked, "How are you?" No one said, "We missed you." I sat there for 20 minutes. I actually timed it on my watch. 20 minutes of absolute silence, punctuated only by the sound of Olivia ripping open wrapping paper and my mother tapping on her phone screen. Finally, Olivia let out a theatrical groan. "Ugh, I'm so bored." My mother's head snapped up from her phone. "What is it, honey?" "I'm just so tired," Olivia whined, flopping onto her back on the carpet. "And I'm starving. When are we eating?" "Soon, sweetie," my mother cooed. "Amelia can come help me in the kitchen." She looked at me expectantly. It was a command. The old Amelia would have jumped to her feet. "Of course, Mom," but I didn't move. "Amelia," my mother said again. "I think you can manage," I said. My mother's eyes went wide. My father actually tore his gaze away from the TV. Olivia stopped what she was doing. This was not in the script. "Excuse me," my mother said. "I'm a guest," I stated simply. "Olivia is a guest. We're all guests. I'm sure you and Dad have it under control." My mother just stared at me. She was seething, but she didn't want to cause a scene in front of her precious Olivia. "Fine," she snapped. "Be that way." She got up and stomped into the kitchen. My father, sensing the shift in barometric pressure, quickly followed her. "I'll just check on the turkey." I was left alone in the room with my sister. She was glaring at me. "What is your problem?" she demanded. "No problem," I said. I picked up a magazine from the end table and pretended to read it. "You're always like this," she said. You walk in here with this attitude, this whole I'm better than you thing. I almost laughed out loud. Me? Better than her? In this house, that was a cosmic impossibility. I'm just tired from the drive, Olivia, I said. Whatever. She turned back to her pile of gifts. We sat in a hostile silence until dinner was ready. I did help bring the food to the table. I did it because I'm weak and because decades of conditioning are hard to break. I mashed the potatoes. I poured the gravy. My mother supervised, which really meant she drank wine and nitpicked everything I did. Add a little more salt, Amelia. Don't overmash those. Your father hates it when they get gummy. I just nodded. Okay, Mom. We finally all sat down. The table was beautiful, I'll give her that. The food was hot, most of which I'd prepared. My father mumbled a quick, monotone grace, and then the performance began. For 45 solid minutes, Olivia held court. She talked about her honeymoon in Cabo. It was just divine. The water was so blue. Our resort, oh my God, you guys, it had a private plunge pool. She talked about her new husband. Evan, ironically, was also his name. A cruel little joke from the universe. He's just so brilliant. His boss adores him. He's already on track for a huge promotion. She talked about their new apartment, her new car, her new friends at the country club. And my parents, they were the perfect audience. Oh, Liv, that's just wonderful, my mother gushed. That's my girl, my father said, beaming with pride. I always knew you'd land on your feet. They were hanging on her every word. I was invisible. I ate my turkey. I ate my potatoes. I drank my water. No one asked me a single question, but I felt something different this time. Usually at these dinners, I feel a deep, aching sadness. I feel small, but this time I felt nothing. I felt cold. I felt a strange clarity. I was just watching them. I was watching 3 actors perform a play that I had seen far too many times. Olivia was the star, my mother was the fawning director, and my father was the silent, spineless audience member. And I was the stagehand, the one who set everything up and was then expected to disappear into the wings. Olivia finally paused to take a long, dramatic sip of her wine. Her eyes fell on me. I think she could sense it. She could sense that I wasn't playing my part. I wasn't looking at her with the required mixture of envy and adoration. I was just looking, and she did not like that one bit. The smile that spread across her face wasn't a smile. It was that smirk, the one she always used right before she moved in for the kill. So, Amelia, she said, her voice suddenly loud, projecting to the whole table. We've all been talking about my new life. What about your old one? I didn't respond. I just held her gaze. How's work? She asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. It's fine, I said. How's that dreary gray city of yours? It's fine. How's the, She wiggled her fingers in the air. The dating scene? Still a total ghost town? I put my fork down. She leaned forward, sensing her moment. This was her grand finale, her Thanksgiving toast. I mean, seriously, she said, her voice filled with a disgusting fake pity. At 35 and still single, is that like a choice at this point? Or did you just kind of give up? And there it was, the jab, the cruelty, the public humiliation. The table went quiet. My mother froze, her eyes dropping to her plate. My father became intensely focused on his water glass. Nobody said a word. Nobody said, Olivia, that's an awful thing to say. They never do, but this time I didn't shrink. I didn't look away. I didn't blush and mumble, I'm fine. The old Amelia was gone. The girl who cried alone at her own graduation was gone. The woman who sat by the phone, waiting for a call that would never come, she was gone too. I looked up from my plate. I looked right at Olivia. I let the silence hang in the air. I let it stretch and become uncomfortable. I let all of them feel it. "What makes you so sure I'm single?" I asked. My voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was quiet. It was steady. It was cold. It sliced through the room's thick tension like a scalpel. Olivia actually laughed, a short, ugly bark. "Oh, please, don't be pathetic. We would know if you were dating someone. You can't keep a secret to save your life." I set my cloth napkin on the table. I placed my fork neatly beside it. My hand was perfectly, completely steady. I looked at my sister. I looked at my mother. I looked at my father. And then I said the words that I knew would set their entire world on fire. "I'm married." The world didn't end. The plates didn't shatter. When I said, "I'm married," the first thing I heard was the profound, heavy silence of a fact that had no place in their narrative. In their story, I was Amelia, the quiet one, the single one, the one who brought pies and sat in the corner chair, the one who was always fine. A married Amelia was a character that didn't exist in their script. My mother, Eleanor, just stared at me, her mouth a thin, hard line. "Don't be ridiculous, Amelia," she said, her voice sharp. "That isn't funny." "I'm not trying to be funny," I replied, keeping my voice perfectly even. "I'm married." My father, Richard, glanced nervously at my mother. He was always scared when the story changed. He was looking for his cue on how to react. My sister, Olivia, was the one who finally broke the tension. She laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound of pure disbelief. "Married?" she scoffed, putting her wineglass down with a thud. "Married? Oh, Amelia, that's just sad. Who'd you marry? Your laptop?" She looked around the table, playing to her audience. "She's finally cracked. 35 years old, and she's invented a husband. His name is Leo," I said. The name landed in the air between us like a physical object, a solid thing. My father flinched. My mother's eyes narrowed to slits. "Leo," Olivia repeated, her smirk finally faltering. "What are you talking about?" "His name is Leo Martinez," I said. "He's a furniture maker. He lives in Portland. We met 2 years ago. We own a home together, and we got married 8 months ago." I laid the facts out on the table one by one like heavy stones. My mother was shaking her head, her face flushing a deep red. But it wasn't with joy. It was with fury. "How dare you?" she whispered. "How dare you come in here and lie like this at the Thanksgiving table? After everything we do for you, everything you do for me." The words rang in my ears. "The graduations you missed, the birthdays you forgot, the life you ignored." "I'm not lying, Mom," I said. "Then where is he?" she snapped. "If you're so married, where is this Leo? Why didn't you bring him?" "I didn't bring him," I said, "because I knew you would do exactly this. I knew you wouldn't believe me. I didn't bring him because I had to do this part alone." "This is an insult," my mother declared, getting to her feet. She was gathering her rage like a storm cloud. "We are your family. If you had gotten married, we would have known about it. We would have been there. We never received an invitation." My father nodded, finding his role. "That's right, Amelia. We never got an invitation. Why would you shut us out like that? Why would you be so cruel?" And there it was, the classic twist. It was my fault. I was the cruel one. I was the one who eloped in secret. I was the one who shut them out. I looked at them, my mother, indignant and righteous, my father, crestfallen and disappointed, my sister, her smirk returning, victorious. They had found their narrative, the narrative where I was the villain. The old Amelia would have folded right there. She would have apologized. "I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry." She would have shrunk. She would have shouldered all the blame just to make the yelling stop. But I am not the old Amelia. I looked at my mother. "You didn't get an invitation? No, she shouted. Of course not, or we would have been there. You hid this from us. You're trying to hurt us. And you, Dad, you didn't get an invitation? He just shook his head, looking so profoundly sad. No, honey, nothing. I don't understand why. Olivia. I turned my gaze to my sister. She just shrugged. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been busy. I'm a married woman now. I don't have time for your bizarre little games. I nodded slowly. I held their gazes, all three of them. The liars. So just to be perfectly clear, I said, my voice like ice. No one in this room, no one at this table received an invitation from me to my wedding 8 months ago. That's right, my mother confirmed. So stop this nonsense. You're ruining Thanksgiving. I see, I said. I reached into my purse and took out my phone. I placed it on the table and unlocked it. The screen cast a cool blue light on the space between us. It was so quiet you could hear the old clock ticking in the hall. You're right, I said. You didn't get an invitation. I looked directly at Olivia. Her smirk was gone. Her face was ashen. You didn't get them, I said, because someone in this very room made sure you wouldn't. The temperature seemed to drop by 20 degrees. My father's face went white. My mother stopped breathing. And for the very first time in my entire life, at my family's Thanksgiving table, every single person was looking at me. Every single person was listening. I had the proof right there in my hand. I had the truth. And the truth, I was learning, was a weapon. My mother's eyes darted between me and Olivia. She could see it. She could see the power had shifted. What? What are you talking about? My mother whispered. What is on that phone? I didn't answer her. I kept my eyes locked on my sister. Olivia wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the phone like it was a live bomb. Olivia, my father said, his voice barely a whisper. What is she talking about? Olivia said nothing. She's talking about the mail, I said. She's talking about the emails. She's talking about the lies. I was completely calm. I had never felt so calm in my life. I pictured myself standing on the beach with Leo. The wind had been fierce that day, and I was worried my veil would fly away. He had held my hands so tightly. His were so warm. He looked right at me and said, "You are my home, Amelia." I was holding on to that moment. I was holding on to that truth. I looked at the 3 people who shared my blood. They were not my home. They were the storm. You want to know why you never got an invitation? I asked the table. I tapped the screen. Let's find out. The phone on the table was a spotlight. It was a judge, and we were all awaiting the verdict. Olivia's face was a pale, still mask. She stared at the phone, knowing exactly what was on it. My mother was practically vibrating with anger. This is a game, Amelia. A sick, cruel game. It's not a game, I said. It's a record. I picked up the phone, my hand perfectly steady, and held it up so they could all see. I knew this would happen, I said softly. I know you. So I was careful. I've learned to be careful. I opened my email app. I navigated to my sent folder. I'll start with the emails, I said, because they're quicker. I tapped the screen. Here, an email sent to eleanor.pierce@gmail.com. My mother's email address, sent on March 4th at 10:30 a.m. I held the phone up. My mother squinted as if she didn't want to see it. The subject line, I read out, my voice clear and loud, is Amelia's wedding. You're invited. My mother let out a small gasp. But maybe you missed it, I said. Maybe it went to your spam folder. Let's check the delivery log. I tapped the screen again and went to a different folder, one I had created 8 months ago, the one I had labeled Proof. I paid for an email tracking service, I explained. It's something we use in my field. I know how to see who opens what and when. I opened the log, and here we go. Email to eleanor.pierce@gmail.com. Sent March 4th, 10:30 a.m. I turned the phone so my mother could see. Opened March 4th, 10:32 a.m. from an IP address located in this very house, on your phone. My mother's face turned a pasty gray. She looked down at her own phone, sitting by her plate, as if it had betrayed her. "You read it?" I said. I, she stammered. I don't remember. "You opened it 2 minutes after I sent it," I stated. "And you never replied. You never called. You never said a single word." My father was shaking his head. "Eleanor, is that true? You saw it?" I get so many emails," she cried, her voice rising in panic. And Olivia was planning her wedding. It was just so hectic. I must have just forgotten." "Forgotten," I said. "You forgot your own daughter was getting married? It was just a beach wedding. It didn't seem real," she mumbled. "And you, Dad?" I said, swiping to the next record. An email to Richard, Pierce at his work address, sent March 4th, 10:31 a.m. "I never saw it," my father said, his voice firm. "I never saw it, Amelia. I would have come. You know I would have." "Let's see," I said. I held up the phone again. "Opened March 5th, 8:17 p.m. from this house. On your computer in the study." My father's face just crumbled. He looked broken. He looked at my mother. "I don't remember. Eleanor, did you check my email for me?" My mother was silent, staring at her plate. "So you both saw it," I said, "and you both did nothing. You both decided it wasn't real. It was Olivia's year." My mother suddenly shrieked, her voice shrill. She had just gotten engaged. "We were planning her wedding. Your little thing. It was a distraction. It wasn't a real wedding, not like your sister's. It was just some little beach party. A little beach party." The words just hung there in the air. My wedding, my love, my vows, my Leo. A little beach party. "So you just erased it," I whispered. "You just decided it never happened." "But I did more than just email," I said, my voice hardening again. "I knew you. I knew you'd forget. So I sent the real invitations, the paper ones, the ones I designed myself on that thick cream-colored stock. I switched to a different app, the Postal Service tracking app. Here is the tracking number," I announced, "for the priority mail package sent to Mr. and Mrs. Richard Pierce at this address, containing 3 invitations." I held the screen up. Delivered March 7th, 1:14 p.m. Left with individual at front door. And here is the signature. I zoomed in on the electronic signature. My mother looked. My father looked. It was not my mother's signature. It was not my father's. It was a quick, looping scrawl. "O. Pierce, Olivia." The silence that fell over the room was absolute. It was the silence of a tomb. My father turned his head, slowly, mechanically. He looked at his youngest daughter. "Olivia," he whispered. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh no. Oh no, 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 no." Olivia wasn't looking at them. She was looking at me. Her face wasn't sad. It wasn't guilty. It was pure, unadulterated hate. Her eyes were 2 slits of blue ice. "Sweetheart," my mother said, her voice trembling. Tell me that's not true. Tell me you didn't. Tell me you gave us the mail, Livy." Olivia didn't move. "Olivia," my father's voice boomed, louder than I'd heard it in a decade. "Did you take your sister's wedding invitations?" Olivia's silence was the answer. It was louder than any confession, more damning than any scream. She had done it. She had signed for the package. She had opened it. She had seen my handwritten notes, my joy, my love. And she had hidden it, thrown it away, burned it. She had erased me. My father dropped his head into his hands. He made a small broken sound. My mother started to cry, soft, wheezing sobs. Why? Why would you do that, Livy? Why? But Olivia just stared at me, and I stared right back. I felt nothing. That cold, clear, perfect nothing. This was my family, a liar, a coward, a thief, and me, the ghost who had finally returned to haunt them all. The sobs from my mother were the only sound in the room. My father was a statue of grief. I was just waiting. My mother kept repeating the word, like a mantra. Why, Livy? Why? Why would you do this? Olivia finally tore her gaze from me and looked at her hands, folded in her lap. I thought for half a second she might actually cry. I thought she might apologize. I thought, after 35 years, she might show a single shred of remorse. I was wrong. When Olivia finally looked up, her eyes were bone dry, and they were blazing with fury. She turned on my mother. "Stop it!" she screamed, her voice like shattering glass. "Just stop crying. It's so annoying." My mother flinched back, her tears stopping instantly. "You want to know why?" Olivia said, her voice dripping with scorn. "Are you that stupid?" She stood up, kicking her chair back so it scraped loudly across the hardwood floor. She was pointing at me now, her whole body shaking. It was supposed to be my year, my engagement, my bridal shower, my bachelorette party, my wedding. It was my turn. Everything was finally about me. I just looked at her, my expression unreadable. And you," she hissed. "You couldn't just let me have it, could you? You always do this." I almost laughed. "I always do this? What do I do, Olivia? I don't do anything. I'm not allowed to do anything. You, with your secret little boyfriend and your secret little design job in your sad, rainy city, you were just waiting to ruin my moment." "I got married, Olivia," I said calmly. "I fell in love. It had absolutely nothing to do with you." "Liar!" she shrieked. "You sent those invitations right after I got engaged. You did it on purpose, to steal my spotlight, to make Mom and Dad look at you for 5 seconds." My mother shook her head weakly. "No, Livy, that's crazy." "It's not crazy," Olivia snapped back. "She's always been jealous of me, my whole life. She's jealous that I'm prettier, she's jealous that I'm happy, and she's jealous that you love me more." And there it was, the final, ugly truth. The one everyone in that room knew but had never dared to say out loud. My mother gasped. "Olivia, that is not true. It is true." Olivia was crying now, but they were big, ugly, angry tears. "You do love me more, because I need you. She doesn't need anyone. She's cold. She's a robot. She just sits there and judges all of us. I didn't want her little beach wedding to get in the way," she said, her voice dropping to a low, vicious snarl. "I didn't want Mom to get distracted. I didn't want Dad to have to go. It was my year. It was my turn, and I wasn't sorry." My father looked up. He looked at my mother, his face shattered. You let her on your computer. You let her. She helps me with my email sometimes," my mother stammered. "I thought she was just helping." They were a wreck. My father destroyed. My mother broken. Olivia, a monster of her own creation. And me. I just stood there, and I felt something change. It was a physical sensation, a string, a long, tight, painful string that had been knotted in my chest since the day I was born, a string that always pulled me back to this house, to this table, a string that made me drive 4 hours with a stupid pie, hoping this time I'd be loved. And it snapped. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just exhaled. A long, slow breath. The kind you take after being held underwater for too long, the kind of breath that saves your life. I was free. The hope was gone. The hope that they would see me, that they would choose me. It was finally, mercifully dead. And the relief was overwhelming. I had been chasing ghosts. I had been trying to draw water from a dry, poisoned well. Olivia was still sobbing. And now you've ruined Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. I looked at her, and I saw her clearly for the first time, not as my sister, not as the star child. I saw a small, pathetic, terrified person, someone so hollow inside that she had to steal the light from everyone around her, a black hole. And I just felt pity. I picked up my purse from the floor. I took out my keys. "Amelia," my father said, his voice a ragged rasp. Where are you going?" I looked at him. His face was gray and old. I looked at my mother, who was just staring blankly at her hands. I looked at my sister, who had stopped crying and was just glaring at me. "You're right about one thing, Olivia," I said. "What?" She sniffed. "You stole my wedding," I said. "You stole the invitations. You stole the chance for my parents to be there." I paused, then looked at my mother and father. "But you, Olivia, you didn't just steal my wedding." I looked at my parents, who sat there silent, who had let this happen, who had looked at me with confusion when I won the art competition, who had missed my graduation, who didn't even know my husband's name. "You didn't just steal my spotlight," I said to Olivia. "You stole my mother. You stole my father. You stole my entire family." I turned my back on her. "And you know what?" I said to the silent room. "You can have them." I stood up from the table. My chair didn't scrape. I moved quietly, just as I always have. But this time, the quiet wasn't about being invisible. It was the quiet of being finished. I walked out of the dining room. I could feel their eyes on my back. "Amelia." My father's voice was a desperate plea. Don't go. It's Thanksgiving. Your pie is still on the counter." I stopped in the hallway. I looked at the perfect pecan pie I had carried for 4 hours. I turned around. I looked at my father. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice calm and final. "I am not leaving because I'm angry. I am not leaving because I'm throwing a tantrum." I looked at my mother, who had followed him into the hall. "I am leaving because I am done. I am done trying to belong in a place that never saw me. I am done competing for your attention. I am done trying to earn your love." "Don't be so dramatic, Amelia," my mother said, her voice already cold. She was siding with Olivia. She was already fixing the story. "Your sister made a terrible mistake. She's very emotional." "A mistake?" I said. "A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is locking your keys in the car, stealing your sister's wedding, lying about it for 8 months, and trying to erase her marriage is not a mistake. It's a choice. It's who she is. It's who you made her. How dare you?" my mother hissed. "No," I said, holding up a hand. "No more. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to stand here and fight with you. There's nothing left to fight for." I looked at my father. "I am sorry, Dad. I'm sorry you're so weak. I'm sorry you let this happen. I'm sorry you never, not one single time, stood up for me." He flinched as if I'd slapped him. He had no answer. Olivia appeared in the doorway, her face splotchy and tear-stained. The show was over, and she hadn't won. "You're ruining Thanksgiving," she mumbled, already reverting to the role of the victim. "You came here just to do this. You hate me. You've always hated me." I looked at her. I looked past her at the shrine of her wedding photos on the wall. The big gold frames, the white dress, the smiling liars. I almost smiled myself. "You're wrong, Olivia," I said. "I don't hate you. I don't feel anything for you at all. You're just a person I used to know." I turned to the front door and put my hand on the knob. You ruined my wedding, Olivia yelled, her voice getting louder. You ruined my first Thanksgiving as a married woman. I paused, my hand on the cold brass. I turned back one last time. No, Olivia. You ruined my wedding. You stole it. You burned it. I looked at my mother and my father. This isn't Thanksgiving. This is just the truth. And the truth has finally caught up with you. And then I opened the door. The cold night air hit my face. It was November. It was dark. I walked out. I didn't run. I walked down the porch steps. I walked across the driveway, my keys already in my hand. I got to my car and clicked the unlock button. The car beeped. I looked back at the house. The front door was still open, spilling a warm, yellow rectangle of light onto the dark lawn. My father was standing in the doorway just watching me go. My mother and Olivia were gone. They were probably back in the kitchen, my mother hugging Olivia, telling her it was all going to be okay, telling her I was the monster. The script was already being rewritten. I got in my car. I put the key in the ignition and started the engine. I put on my seatbelt. I backed out of the driveway slowly and carefully. I drove down their street. I stopped at the stop sign. I used my blinker. I drove onto the on-ramp to the highway, and then I cried. I cried so hard I couldn't see the road. I had to pull over onto the shoulder. I sat in my car on the side of a dark, empty highway, and I wailed. It wasn't a sad cry. It was a cry of birth. It was the sound of 35 years of swallowed pain finally leaving my body. I cried for the little girl with the paint-smeared medal. I cried for the woman at her own graduation, all alone. I cried for the bride who stared at 3 empty chairs. I cried for the pies, the flowers, the stupid wasted hope. I cried for 10 minutes, and then I stopped. I wiped my face. I blew my nose on a napkin from the glove compartment. I took a deep, shuddering breath. The air in the car was cold and clean. I put the car in gear and pulled back onto the highway. It was a 4-hour drive. I didn't turn on the radio, I just drove. I was driving home, to Leo, to my real home. I was finally completely free. The 4-hour drive back to Portland was the quietest trip of my life. My mind was a blank slate. I wasn't replaying the argument, wasn't thinking of clever things I should have said. I just drove. I felt hollowed out, but in a good way, like a cluttered room that had finally been cleared of all its old, broken furniture. When I pulled up to our condo, it was almost midnight. The lights were on inside. I quietly unlocked the door. Leo had fallen asleep in the big armchair in the living room. The TV was on mute, and a book was open on his lap. He had waited up for me. I just stood there for a moment, looking at him. His strong hands, his kind face, the feeling of safety he represented. The love I felt for him in that moment was so big it filled up all the new, empty spaces inside me. I walked over and gently touched his shoulder. His eyes fluttered open immediately. He hadn't been deeply asleep. "Hey," he said, his voice thick with sleep. "You're home." He looked at my face, at my puffy, red-rimmed eyes. He saw the new stillness in me. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't say I told you so. He just stood up, wrapped his arms around me and pulled me tight against his chest. I buried my face in his shirt. It smelled like sawdust and coffee. It smelled like home. "It's done," I whispered. "I know," he said, and just held me. He kissed the top of my head. "You said what you needed to say. I told them about you," I mumbled into his chest. "I told them I was married." "Good," he said, holding me even tighter. "I'm glad. I'm so proud of you, Amelia." And I cried again, but this time they were small, quiet tears of pure relief. I was safe. The next few days were silent. I kept waiting for the angry phone calls, the guilt-tripping texts, the "how dare you" emails. But there was nothing. A week later, my phone buzzed. The screen read, "Dad." My heart leapt into my throat. I almost didn't answer. Leo saw my face from across the room and gave me a slight nod. "It's okay. You don't have to." But I did. I swiped to answer. "Hello?" His voice was small, cracked. "Amelia." "Hi, Dad," I said. There was a long pause. I could hear him take a shaky breath. I'm sorry, Amelia," he started, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry." He was crying. My father, the quiet, weak man, was sobbing on the phone. "I didn't know," he said. "I swear to God I didn't know about the invitations. I would have been there, honey. I promise you I would have been there." I closed my eyes. "I know, Dad." "I didn't see you, Amelia," he said, his voice a whisper. "I've been a terrible father. I just looked at your sister and I missed you. I missed your entire life. And I am so sorry." I was crying too. "I'm sorry too, Dad." "For what?" he asked, confused. "That you missed it," I said. "That you weren't there. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. It was the first honest conversation we'd ever had. He told me my mother and Olivia weren't speaking to him. They had formed a united front. They were furious that he had believed me. "I don't care," he said, his voice stronger. "I'm done, Amy. I'm done being blind." He asked about Leo. He asked to see pictures. He asked to meet him. We made a plan to get coffee, just the two of us, the following month. It was a small, fragile thing, but it was real. 2 days after that, a letter arrived. A thick, cream-colored envelope with Olivia's loopy handwriting. I opened it with trembling hands. It was 5 pages long. It was not an apology. It was a list of my crimes. "I know you're mad, but I was just so stressed with my own wedding. You made Mom and Dad fight. You always thought you were so much better than me. You made this huge mess, and now I'm the one who has to clean it up. Mom is devastated. She said you're not her daughter anymore. It was page after page of me, her." I read all 5 pages. Then I carried the letter to the kitchen sink, took a lighter from the utility drawer, and set the corner on fire. I watched the words curl into black ash. I washed the ash down the drain. I never replied. My mother texted me a week later, "Your sister is heartbroken. You need to apologize for what you did to her." I stared at the message, then I blocked her number. The next year was quiet. I saw my father a few times for coffee. It was awkward and sad, but it was real. He met Leo. He shook his hand and cried. He told me my mother and Olivia had doubled down, telling the whole extended family that I was mentally unstable and had abandoned them. My Christmas card list got a lot shorter. I didn't care. The empty space they left in my life was a relief. Then, the next Thanksgiving came. Leo and I drove to his parents' house. I was nervous. I brought a pie. Old habits. We walked in, and the house was wonderful chaos. It was loud, warm, and smelled like turkey, garlic, and an obscene amount of butter. Leo's mom, Sarah, spotted me and ran over, grabbing my face in her warm, flour-dusted hands. "Amelia," she yelled over the noise, "you're here. Thank God, can you taste this gravy and tell me if it's too salty?" She hugged me, then pulled me into the bustling kitchen. Leo's sisters were laughing. His nephews were having a sword fight with wooden spoons. "How's that new brewery project going?" his dad asked, handing me a glass of wine. "Amelia, come settle a debate for us," his sister yelled. "Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?" I stood in the middle of their kitchen, holding a wine glass, and I was laughing. They were talking to me. They were asking me questions. They saw me. Leo caught my eye from across the room and smiled. A real, warm smile that reached his eyes. I raised my glass to him. We all squeezed around the crowded dinner table, bumping elbows, everyone talking at once, and I finally understood. I thought about that other table, the cold, quiet, perfect table where I was invisible. Home, I realized. Home isn't the place where you were born. It isn't about the blood you share. I looked at Leo's mother, at his sister. I looked at my husband, who was holding my hand under the table. Home is where you're respected. Home is where they're happy you showed up. Home is where you are seen.